Asato ma sagamaya tamaso maham jyoti gamaya mrityormam amrita gamaya avir maedhi rudra yate dakshinam mukha te namaha paha nityam. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Reach us through and through ourselves, and evermore protect us from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. So my subject this morning is unity in diversity. And we're going to be talking about one of the fundamental themes of the wisdom of the East. Unity means the one. Diversity means the many. And so it's all about finding the one in the many. In the ancient times, Shaunaka approached a great sage, Shaunako Havai Mahashalo Angirasam Vidivad Upasanna Prapacha Kasminnu Bhagavo Vigyate Sarvam Idam Vigatum Bhavatiti. This is an old Sanskrit verse. Sometimes I quote Sanskrit verses, show you this is not a New Age religion. It's the oldest religion in the world. They ask the same questions that we're discussing this morning about unity and diversity. And Shaunaka, he asked the great sage Angiras his question, what is that by knowing which all this becomes known? And he was asking a question about the underlying reality, about how we can understand what is the basic underlying fundamental concept. This is the idea that runs through the whole of the Upanishads, these ancient teachings which are the source of the Vedanta philosophy, and that is, it's all about the search for unity in diversity. It's also the theme of all of science. Physicists, chemists, biologists do nothing but search for higher and higher generalizations that will explain phenomena, the ongoing search for a unified field theory, for a single equation that explains everything. And, well, why should we be interested in this subject? Unity in diversity? Well, for one thing, it will give us knowledge and wisdom. And we organize every day of our lives. We organize miscellaneous data in order to get information, and then we integrate this information to derive knowledge, and we try to understand the knowledge in order to attain wisdom. And this organizing and this integrating and this understanding, it's all just finding unity in diversity. So certainly it will give us some knowledge and some wisdom. Certainly it will empower us. It will give us mental strength. Because if you take a group of people milling around, a crowd of people, undisciplined, unregulated, it's just a mob. It doesn't really accomplish anything constructive. But if that mob of people is organized and ordered, then it could become an army and achieve its goals. And so the unity and diversity, it brings a kind of a power, just like the American eagle. This is picture there holding in its talons the 13 arrows. The idea being that in unity there is strength. And united we stand, divided we fall. So certainly it will empower, certainly it will give us some sense of happiness and joy, bringing together the miscellaneous parts, putting things together, the universe like a jigsaw puzzle, all laid out on the table. And you feel kind of uncomfortable just seeing all those pieces there. Our natural tendency, we want to put it all together. And piece by piece it's assembled until finally one day the last piece is put in place and a beautiful picture emerges. And it makes us happy, seeing that unity and diversity. In fact, that's what gives us a sense of aesthetic pleasure. In all forms of art and literature and painting, it's that finding of unity and diversity. It's the great poets are those who have the unified sensibility and are able to bring things together to give us that, they will submit to our aesthetic judgment. There's an old maxim in philosophy that expresses this theme. Our theme this morning, the theme of the Upanishads, Yadiveha taramutra taramutra taranveha. That's an ancient old saying of philosophy. Whatever is here, that is there. Whatever is there, that is here. The macrocosm mirrors the microcosm. The microcosm mirrors the macrocosm. The individual mirrors the collective. It's all about zooming in, zooming out. You get two different perspectives on the same thing. Everything is built on the same pattern. Let's look at that. We can begin with a microcosm of our own physical bodies. As we look at our bodies, we can see that we occupy a body space, that the gross physical body, that is physics, chemistry, biology, all together, working together as a unified whole. It's functioning It's working. It has a structure. It has internal laws that guide its being. There's a kind of a homeostasis that keeps it going. It has a teleology as we grow and evolve. All this is true of the microcosm. Our bodies appear to be separate from everything else around us. And yet, we know that nothing really is separate, that no man is an island, that everything in the world, I mean, every physical thing in the world certainly is somehow connected. If we take a flower, you hold a flower in your hand, you begin to contemplate that flower. In order to understand the flower, you realize quickly it is not just a thing in itself, an isolated phenomena. In order to understand the flower, you have to understand something about the soil, and about the water, and about the sun, and about the climate, and all those things. It's connected. All of the connections that it forms together. All living things, all material things exist in a kind of a community of function that kind of unifies everything, and they function as part of a larger whole. And the whole of nature, if we look as a macrocosm mirrors the microcosm, so all that we've said of our individual body, so it's true also of the whole. The whole of nature is not a chaos; it's a cosmos. It all kind of works together. It's there. We could say that there is a great cosmic body. That the cosmic body it has a beginning. It has a middle, it has an end. Certainly it's governed by universal laws. It functions as a whole, kind of, we could say, like not an organism, but a superorganism. It regulated by law, maintaining very specific universal constants and homeostasis. Certainly it has a teleology, moving, evolving upwards. So this great cosmic body, the great cosmic body that is there, governed by, in Sanskrit it's called the Virat. I'm going to use a few Sanskrit words this morning. Don't be intimidated by the handful of Sanskrit words that are necessary to have an understanding of this Vedanta philosophy. We can easily incorporate them into our vocabulary, and in fact you will find many in any Webster's Desktop Collegiate Dictionary. So the word for the universal body, what is the cosmic body? See, they're kind of standing now for concepts that we really don't have in the collective consciousness of Western thought. But in Sanskrit, that is called the Virat. And they're just as we have a body, and we also have a kind of a consciousness of the waking state, a waking consciousness that is aware of our body and is aware of the sensory world. So too there is a waking consciousness, a universal consciousness. It's called the Vaishwanara. That cosmic consciousness which is aware of the cosmic body. So as it is here, so it is there. And we see that there is unity in diversity. And as it is in our body, so also it is in the subtle, our subtle thought body. As in the body, so also in the mind. When we think about our minds, we naturally think that we are in a, you close your eyes, and you're in your own mind, you feel as if you're in a private space, a wholly personal, a holy place which is limited to your own particular thoughts and feelings and memories. But we rarely take the time to plumb the depths of our mind. And that is to see and to go deeper beneath the surface, and where we would find that our minds are connected with other minds, that there is a great intersubjectivity of the subtle plane, and that just as our minds are kind of like a whirlpools in a larger body of water like the ocean, and just as a whirlpool is very strong at the center and it kind of has its own individual form and shape, but it fades out on the sides, similarly our minds are contained in a great cosmic mind. So just as we have an individual mind, so too there is a collectivity of minds. I'm telling you, this is the teaching. You have to integrate this in your own understanding and see if you believe it. Of course, we believe in intersubjectivity, probably, but the thesis here is a little stronger thesis, that there is a unified cosmic mind, and that that there is a kind of a panpsychism. There's a maybe we don't push it that far, but pan-cognitivism, a sensationalism, or a pan-interiorism, that every jivatma, every living thing has an interior, not a human mind, but it has a subtle interior. And there is a universal, certainly in human minds, we understand that there are such things as universal ideas, universal reason. We all share. Our minds work the same. They work in accord with the same laws. There's universal moral values. We all share the same logical thought. And so there is a shared cosmic mind. This universal cosmic mind, it is governed by a cosmic intelligence. And just as we have when we fall asleep at night is our most intimate experience of the subtle world during the dream state. But of course the teaching here is that subtle world, the dream state, is a private, personal world created by our imagination. But beyond that, there is a universal, cosmic, subtle reality, which is objective, which is not just dreamed up by individuals. And so that this cosmic, subtle reality, just as in our dream, we have a dreamer. Similarly, there is a universal cosmic consciousness associated with the sum total of all minds. It's called the Mahat. And So here again we see unity in diversity. And so we have, with the microcosm, we're trying to make the thesis here, the microcosm mirrors the macrocosm. We know, we look within ourselves, that we have gross, this is the universe, the order of things. Everything's built on the same pattern, gross, subtle, causal. Similarly, we have a gross body, we have a subtle body, and we have a causal body. Causal body we experience. Well, every night, fall asleep with a dream, sink into deeper, dreamless sleep. At that time, in dreamless sleep, we have no awareness of our gross body or of the sensory world. There's no thoughts, there's no feelings, there's no emotion, there's no mind, there's no thinker, there's no intellect. And yet, there's consciousness. There's still consciousness, even in that deep sleep. Next day we wake up, people say, oh yes, I slept very well last night. I had deep sleep last night. I slept happily and I knew nothing. So that's the reference here to this causal state, a state in which we are conscious, we exist, but we have no body. We have no mind, no intelligence, no thoughts, feelings, thinking, feeling, willing. All that is sublated by a deeper reality, which is our deeper, truer self. And as it is in the microcosm, so it is in the macrocosm. There is a universal, causal body. We could call it the causal state. Sometimes it's called they talk in the books on yoga, philosophy, they talk about three kinds of space. We know space, physical space. That's the Mahakasha. Then there's the Chittakasha, subtle space, which we are acquainted with in our dreams and in our thoughts. That's the subtle space. Then there's Chidakasha. That's the causal space. In the causal space, that is the locus of all of the Vedic knowledge, of the Platonic forms, of the mathematical numbers, all those things. You say, well, does the number 3 exist? Well, obviously it doesn't have an address somewhere in Mahakasha. No, but it subsists in the Chidakasha. Yeah, that's where all the existence of all universal moral aesthetic values, the existence of archetypal forms, of gods and goddesses, in the Chidakasha, in the subtle space, or no, the causal space. So that we can, we experience, we go into deep sleep, we fall asleep, the dream, the subtle, fall down into that causal state. In that causal state where all beings share the same self-consciousness. See, I don't know what you did yesterday. I don't know what you dreamed last night. I have no way of knowing that. But I know exactly how you felt in deep sleep, because when in deep sleep, all beings are the same. That is the same self. Becomes remove all the distinguishing attributes now are left behind, and get that one thread that runs through, say, one consciousness. That one unified consciousness, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mayi sarvam idam protam sutre mani ganaiva. He's talking there, Sri Krishna is talking, identifying with the God, the universal being. He says that in the state of that deep causal state, there's a universal consciousness, runs through everything like a golden thread. So he says, I, that is the God, I am the golden thread that runs through the consciousness of all beings. And so let us consider this cosmic being, this cosmic consciousness that animates the cosmic body, that has a cosmic mind, that has a cosmic subtle body. In Vedanta, this is called the great person. This is the God of Vedanta. This is called in the Upanishads, it's called the Adi Purusha. The Purusha means the cosmic man. And in the Upanishad, that is even before that, in the Vedas, in the Rig Veda, it goes like Purusha evedam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. It's all talking here about in the Purusha Sukta. There's the talking here and describing the universal person. You can read about it in the Bhagavad Gita. Sri Krishna revealed to Arjuna his universal form. Sahasrashirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapa Sabhumim Vishwato Vritta Atyatishta Dashangulam. He saw this universal form of God. And he was stunned and amazed to see that the sun was like the sun and the moon, or like the eyes, the wind that blows is the breath, the earth is the body, and the stars and all of the different parts of the world are like different directions. So the four directions are his hands and his feet. So he has a vision of this cosmic form, this cosmic man, the universal man, which contains everything. And we call him a universal man, but actually he's a universal everything. universal tree, universal dog, universal cat. Everything is contained within that cosmic person who is the personification, who is the embodiment of the ideal of unity in diversity. So this is the cosmic person. We can ask, what is our connection? God, we could call him God. This is the God of Vedanta. We could ask ourselves, what is our connection with God? What's our relationship with this God? This collective, we're individuals. What is our relationship with this collective being? And a good answer is given there in the old Bhakta Ramayana, when they're asked on Hanuman, who's the devotee, great devotee of Rama, the incarnation of God. He asks, someone asks him, what is your relationship with Rama? And there he says, Deha buddhya tadasoham jiva buddhya tadangshaka atma buddhya tvam evaham iti me nishchita mati. There he's saying, when I think that he's asking, what's your connection, your relationship with God? He says, well, when I think of myself as a physical being, then I feel as if I am God's servant. When I think of myself as a subtle or mental being, that is as a soul, then I feel that I am a part of God. But when I think of my true self, my true nature, then I know that I am one with Rama, one with God. And this is the old, this is the teaching. where he's saying, I am he, I am, like Moses goes up on Mount Sinai. The guy, he says, who's walking there? Oh, I'm Moses, he says. Who are you? He says, oh. And the voice that's speaking on the mountain gives his name. What is your name? Well, my name, I am that I am. That is, Moses said, I am Moses. And he asks God, he says, well, who are you? He says, well, I am that I am. That is, I am your very self. I am your very soul. And so all of the knowers of God, they realize that they are one with God. And we might ask the question, how is it possible that a limited, individual, finite person could be identified with an unlimited, universal, infinite, impersonal being? Seems like the two opposites. The individual and the collective, the finite and the infinite, the personal and the impersonal, that includes everything. And that's the question. That's the great question of philosophy. In order to answer that, we have to transcend this relative world, this realm of the play of the pairs of opposites. We have to transcend the relative and go to the realm of the absolute. The absolute. We have to go from duality from dualism to monism to non-dualism. Non-dualism is the name of this Vedanta philosophy. It's called, in Sanskrit, it's called Advaita. Translation, non-dualism. This is not monism. This is a teaching of non-dualism. The Vedanta philosophy, it teaches that beyond this relative world of dualism, there is an absolute non-dual reality. In Sanskrit, it is called Brahman. Brahman is the name, the word, the name of the ultimate, the absolute reality. Brahman is the one that appears as many. Brahman is the nameless and formless that appears as all names and forms. It's Brahman that appears as the Jiva, the Jagat, and as Ishvara. These are the classic triad of beings. From our dualistic standpoint, we can think of this Brahman, this ultimate reality, we can think of it as the ground of being, the kind of the ontological foundation of all beings, of everything in the universe. Brahman is not a particular embodied soul. He's not a jiva. Brahman is not the Jagat. The Jagat means this changing world, nature, we could say. So it's not an individual soul. It's not a natural thing. And it is not Ishvara. It's not God. It's not that cosmic being, that universal cosmic being that we described in the Upanishads. The Brahman is rather the principle of being and consciousness that is the presupposition of the appearance of all of these things. The analogy that I give, that I find to be a helpful analogy to understand this relationship between the individual and the collective and the absolute. Think of a sheet of paper, a white sheet of paper. And just imagine that on that paper you take a pencil and you draw many small circles, and then you draw a big circle that includes all of the small circles in it. And now those small circles, each small circle represents a jivatma. That is an embodied soul. That's us. We are embodied souls. We're individuals. So each small circle represents the individual, the part. The big circle there represents God. God is the sum total of everything. We're all parts, we could say, of that larger whole, that larger circle, which is composed of many parts and which includes everything. That larger whole is God. But both of the parts, the small circles and the large circle also, are all just marks that are imposed upon the paper. Brahman, in the analogy, is like the paper. It underlies. It's not the individual. It's not the collective. It's not even a circle. Rather, it is the ground of being that appears, the one that appears as many. And as a small circle, as an individual, it's natural that we think of ourselves as part of a larger circle. That is, where individuals are part, just as our cells of our body and organs of our body are part of our body, larger whole. Similarly, we too, as microcosms, are part of the larger cosmic being, part of the larger circle. But both the part and the whole, both the individual and the collective, are sublated by the absolute, that is by Brahman, which unifies them both. Maybe this is, I think that this is best illustrated in the Upanishad text, Shvetashvatara Upanishad, by an analogy in the Upanishads. Here's the analogy. Dvasuparna sayuja sakaya samanam vriksham parisha swajate tayoranya pipalam swadvat Tanashnan nanyo avichakashiti. 2 verses there in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. And there it says that there are 2 birds. There are 2 birds that are perched on the same tree. One eats the sweet and the bitter fruits, and the other looks on without eating. There's a lower bird. The lower bird is perched on the lower branches of the tree. He hops around, very restless. He hops around from branch to branch, pecking at the fruits, and he gets a sweet fruit, and he gets a bitter fruit, and he is very busy seeking out the fruits to eat. Whereas the higher bird, he doesn't jump around at all. He's calm, quiet, sitting, majestic, the observer, the witness of the whole forest, looks on without eating. He's not hungry. He's filled. He's fulfilled and satisfied. Meanwhile, the lower birds are jumping around, hopping around, pecking his sweet fruit. Ah, yes, go looking for another one. Ah, then he gets a particularly bitter fruit. Ah, very bad. Looks up and he sees the glory of that beautiful, majestic bird perched on the highest top of the tree, and he thinks, yes, I wish I was up there. It would be very good. But then he gets distracted again, starts hopping about on the branches, and eats the sweet fruits, gets another particularly bitter fruit, looks up, sees the higher bird, jumps up a few branches, then gets distracted again, and continues on with his, as he did before. Gradually, the lower bird, in this way, he's hopping up little by little. He's looking up, he's hopping up one branch by one branch, up the tree. And as he gets higher and higher on the tree, he finds his view is improved. His world view is improved. Sees everything, sees much farther, spends a lot less time hopping around, more time just looking around, enjoying the higher place that he's got to. And he looks up, hops up a few more branches. He's beginning to feel the presence, the sunlight, the brightness of those higher branches. And then one day he just, on an impulse, he just takes the last few jumps up to the top. And then a wonderful thing happens where at one time there were two birds, now there's only one bird. The two merge into one. And now there's only one bird at the top of the mountain. At the top of the mountain, up the tree. There was only one bird all along. And you know how in a forest, you look in a forest there, and you're walking through the forest, maybe the gentle breeze is blowing, the trees, the big, tall pine trees there with all the branches, and maybe the light is filtering through the branches and the leaves, and there's a play of shadows in the branches. Sometimes it creates illusions in those branches. And so here there are two birds. It appeared as if there are two birds. Really, there's only one bird. There was only one bird all along. And so this is the analogy in the ancient Upanishad. The tree is the great tree of this is the world. It's the great tree of the world. And the higher bird is our own higher consciousness. It's the ultimate reality. We could call it God or our true self. The lower bird is ourselves today, the Jivatman, the limited, the personal self, which is completely occupied with tasting the sweet and bitter fruits of our karma. And but however far we are, however far down on the tree we are at present, we have to remember the teaching of the Vedanta philosophy that really there aren't two birds. There really is only one bird. And thou art that. That's the essential teaching of the Vedanta philosophy. You are that one being. So here we have I've tried to, our theme this morning, unity in diversity. There, in the diversity of nature, there is a cosmic body. It's called the Virat. in the diversity of subtle minds and hearts, there is a universal cosmic mind called the Mahat. And in the individual souls, all of our individual souls that are causal, our causal as souls are unified in the great universal consciousness called Ishvara. And all of these three levels of unity, these are three levels of unity in diversity. But there is a higher unity, and that is the perfect unity of the Absolute, the oneness of the Nirguna Brahman, the nameless and the formless, the Paramartika Satyam. That's the teaching of the Vedanta philosophy. There are levels of reality. The highest reality. This world is called the Vyavaharika Satyam. And in the Vyavaharika Satyam, this is a relative world. Everything is, we have transactional reality. Beyond the relative world is the Paramartika Satyam. That is, there is a higher, the world of that is the Absolute. That sublates the relative world, just as this relative real world sublates the dream world. When we wake up, we find ourselves in this world. Similarly, there is a higher world, the absolute reality, the one, only, without a second. And so we see here in this philosophy, we're kind of dealing with this protean word, one. You got to be careful of that word, one. What it means, there's a whole spectrum of meaning. We've traced here the meanings of one, from the individual to the collective to the absolute, and so it keeps shifting. And but that is our goal. Our goal and purpose is to discover the one. Our goal is to realize that Brahman, the one only without a second, that Brahman alone is real, that the world is unreal, and that thou art that. Om Dyo Shanti Antariksha Ham Shanti Prithvi Shanti Apa Shanti Oshadaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shanti Vishwe Deva Shanti Brahma Shanti Saravam Shanti Shantireva Shanti Same Shantiredhi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, peace is in heaven, peace is on the earth, peace is in the sky and in the waters. The herbs and plants and trees are full of peace. The gods are peaceful. May this eternal universal peace enter our souls and beings. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all.